in memory of Mr. John Wood, who died July 5th.
My hope for this music is that it might help us grow in compassion. If we can open our hearts to the people from the past whose names are inscribed on these stones and face the inevitable fact of our own deaths, we might find that we can learn to live with greater attention and gentleness.
There is a song which doth belong to all the human race.
I've always loved walking in cemeteries. Instead of focusing on the suffering and the pain and the loss, or the grief that the place might represent, to me it was a place of great peace. And then I came to realize that in reading the stories and the tombs and thinking about the families and the succession of lives, that the cemetery is a place where the sufferings and sorrows of life are transformed into beauty and peace.
No sleep so sweet as thine, nor rest so sure as thine, nor sleep so sweet and so
It turns out that Reverend Laban Ainsworth was the longest serving pastor, and I believe still is the longest serving pastor in American history. This cemetery is almost like a great literary work by this man. He would have been the one, in concert perhaps with the families, who was writing the messages on the tombstones. And he's also included in these texts because one of the people who died in a house fire in Reverend Ainsworth's house.
Here is entered the last remains of Isaac Aaron Spofford, son of Deacon Eleazar and Mrs. Mary Spofford, a brand plucked from the ashes of Reverend Laban Ainsworth's house. 13 February 1788.
Here you are free to invent whatever tales you need. Please, take all the time you want. See that obelisk, barely a yard tall, tilting over in the back corner, about to fall? It marks another common story. Early death, illness, and a miserable marriage. If you think you have some time, you can pick weeds from the plot, or try to write that stone. There's little else to do here. For this project, I also commissioned new poems from contemporary poets in response to several of the songs. These are spoken between movements as a reflective commentary on the voices from the past that are represented by the sung text from the tombstones. The piece consists of an arc that follows the stages of grief, from the first awakening to the inevitability of death, through rage, mourning, remembrance, and finally, a prayer for peace.
And may all our paths be
This piece is not about fear of death. It's about coming to terms with the truth of our lives, finding a way to uplift ourselves with that knowledge.